Thank you, everybody. Thank you for being here. My name is Jeanette Clay again, and I use she, her pronouns. On behalf of the OWHE and Game Board, I am happy to have you all here today for Dr. Sarah Kutten's keynote. We will begin within the next minute as I'm introducing her, and I just want to provide a reminder to keep yourselves muted and that this session is being recorded. Sarah Kutten, Ed D, she, her, is the Assistant Vice Provost of Students and Belonging at the University of Oregon's Portland campus. Her experience working in higher education spans over a decade. During that time, she has had the opportunity to work at small private and large public institutions in a variety of functional areas, including student activities and leadership, academic affairs, career services, student conduct, assessment, faculty development, equity and inclusion, crisis management, and most recently, collecting saliva for COVID testing. As a leader, relationship building and collaboration are key to her approach. She thrives in roles where she serves as a bridge between different units within organizations to advance initiatives and strategies that benefit everyone. In her current role at the University of Oregon, her work blends her passions for student success and justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. Sarah extends this approach to her volunteer work as a NASPA Student Affairs and Higher Education Board member, as an advisory board director of the nonprofit leadership trainer, and as a board director on the Willamette University Alumni Association. Sarah utilizes her scholarship rooted in critical race theory as a pathway for activism. She is fascinated by the transformation that takes place as students navigate post-secondary education experiences of Black college students. To this end, she has presented her research and engaged in meaningful consulting work that cultivates anti-racism in leadership and student life. In the coming year, she intends to amplify her voice through journal publications based on her dissertation and a forthcoming book chapter on anti-racism in leadership education. In addition to her professional and scholarly activities, she describes her most important role as being a mother to 2 young humans and 2 very spoiled cats. In her spare time, what's that? She loves to take naps, watch college and pro football, cook, eat, and then take a nap, get outside with her kiddos, and return home for, you got it, more snuggles and naps. Her keynote titled, Walking with Purpose Through Change, will weave together stories that reflect her lived experiences and how she has transcended through change to become the person she is today. I welcome Dr. Sarah Kutten. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jeanette, for the introduction, and welcome to all of you conference attendees to this keynote. I first want to thank the Conference Planning Committee and all the other folks who are working behind the scenes to make this event possible. Having been on conference planning committees through the pandemic, I know that it is kind of a wild ride. So congratulations on being here. It's happening, so exciting. It's also a huge honor to be asked to deliver a keynote address. And so I'm incredibly grateful for this opportunity. This happens to be an auspicious day for me. 2 years ago, I successfully defended my dissertation at Portland State University. 62 years ago, my father was born. And here I am on this very special day, delivering my very first keynote at this conference. So I'm feeling all of the things right now and humbled to share this space with you. So the title of my presentation is Walking with Purpose Through Change. And as Jeanette said, I'll be sharing my personal stories with you. I want to just provide a trigger warning in advance. In the next slide, I will be talking very briefly about a fatal car accident. And then I'll be talking about going through divorce. And so just wanted to give you all a heads up about that. There's no pictures or anything of a car accident, nothing like that. And it'll be probably pretty short because it's still like very close to my heart and it makes me anxious, even though it was a long time ago. But these are important stories to tell because they have shaped who I am today. So I'm going to live into my vulnerability with you, and I hope that you'll send love and positive vibes as we go through. But do please take care of yourselves, because I understand that folks are in lots of different places and experience lots of things, and some of this stuff may not be what you are prepared to hear right now. All right, here we go. Let's see if my slides advance. Boop. All right. I'm going to close this because I can see that it says transcriptions are on, but hopefully that doesn't take away transcriptions for everybody. So this is me. I am Sarah Nana Ya Abuajoa Kutten, and I'm the daughter of James Kutten, a Ghanaian immigrant to the United States, and Donette Kutten, a Caucasian American woman of Scottish and Irish heritage. I am the sister of Priscilla, Alfred, Hannah, and Nicole. I'm auntie to Max and Irina. I'm named after my paternal grandmother, Sarah. Nana is a name given to honor royalty and elders in Ghana, so I'm named after my grandmother, hence Nana. Ya means that I'm a female born on Thursday. And Abuajoa is a name that my father gave to me, which means patience, which is a little ironic because I have none. But this collection of pictures represents my life. I'm a mother to my daughter, Ayuram Nicole, who is 9, and my son, Senyo Agdeniega, who is 7, and they are truly my greatest gifts. I'm held together by a tremendous group of ride or die family, friends, and colleagues who inspire me, hold space for me, and love me unconditionally, and also hold me accountable. It is a blessing to be here today, and I wholeheartedly believe that, because nearly 20 years ago, I was 19 at the time, I was riding home from the coast with my father, my stepmother, and my baby sister, Nicole, and we got into a horrific car accident that took all of their lives. I walked away from the crash with a major concussion, some bumps and bruises, but was otherwise physically okay. Recovering from a loss like that was awful. I felt as if my world had been turned upside down, as if the carpet had been pulled right out from under me. And about 6 months after the accident, I was still floundering, as one would, right? I was struggling with survivor guilt. I was failing out of college. I was sleeping hours upon hours each day. I was depressed. I had anxiety. I had PTSD. It was a pretty awful time. And I was trying to make sense of the life before me. So one evening, I found myself at an awards dinner because I had received a scholarship, and now I was going back to give the scholarship to other people. And I was wallowing in my grief at that time. I was there, but I wasn't really there. I was wallowing in my grief when the keynote, Dr. Bertice Berry, shared a sentence that helped me find my grounding. She said, "When you walk with purpose, you collide with destiny." I clung to those words in that moment. They became my grounding in a time when nothing else made sense. And I promised myself from then on to be intentional with the gift that I had been given to survive this accident. And I've continued to do so throughout the transitions of my life. So this brings us back to the theme of the conference. Transformation is a process of change. We've all endured change in our own ways throughout the past few years. With the pandemic, there's been highs and lows. We've learned lessons along the way. And for many, we've become more aware of our priorities and sought ways to shape our life around the things that mean most to us. Walking in purpose. So as we emerge into this new normal, in this time of change, walking in purpose is critical. Walking in purpose allows us to hold tight to what we stand for, what we value, and where we direct our energy. As things morph and shift around us, we become beacons guiding our own way through the transitions of life. Now, walking in purpose isn't always easy. And walks can look different depending on your context and lived experiences and who you know and all of that. But to help provide an illustration of what it looks like to walk in purpose, I'd like to share some stories from my life where I've navigated change. And because I like structure and order, I've organized them into 3 categories: individual, organizational, and community. I was walking in purpose when I found the man of my dreams while volunteering in Ghana. Together, we saw the world, we produced 2 beautiful children, and built a life together. Then one evening, after nearly 15 years, the man that I knew was my very best friend shared that he no longer wanted to do life together. He wanted a divorce. It was devastating. It was heartbreaking. And once again, I found myself feeling that the rug had been ripped out from under me. My sense of self was shattered. I've always been an independent person. And that's one of the things that I have valued in myself, is that I'm independent, I can do things on my own, and I got this. But when you're together with someone for that long, your lives become intertwined in ways that you could never have imagined. And it was this process of kind of peeling back and figuring out who am I without this person, that was incredibly challenging. And so it was a time of reinventing my identity separate from him. But I also had 2 little humans to think about. My parents divorced when I was young, and they didn't get along very well. And it created all kinds of anxiety and stress for me growing up. And I knew that I did not want that environment for my kids. So one of my purposeful walks during this time was making this change to our family as gentle as possible for my kiddos. And I was fortunate, very, very fortunate, that my ex-husband was also on the same page of putting the kids first in this separation, divorce. So walking in purpose during this time meant biting my tongue when I was angry at my husband for making this choice to end our family. It meant reflecting critically on my own role in the demise of our marriage. It meant reinventing traditions with my children. It meant walking through the logistics of having 2 homes and being flexible along the way to adapt to what my children needed the most. Now, ultimately, it turned out all right. The kids are thriving, and I am fortunate to have a successful co-parenting relationship with their father so far. And I can say it's not all unicorns and rainbows, of course. But walking with purpose through that time gave me the grounding that I needed to get through this really awful time in my life. I also walk in purpose as a professional at my University of Oregon, go Ducks. And I know for myself that I feel most purposeful when I'm in a position to be at the driver's seat of change. I have always been I've considered myself a leader in social justice and equity and inclusion work and in activism. But in the wake of George Floyd's murder and the senseless murders of many others who look like me, I was forced to take my advocacy to another level. And this happened in the professional space in a way that it hadn't quite before. So at the time, and it's still now, I lead equity and inclusion. I'm kind of the chief diversity officer for the Portland campus. And my supervisor asked me to prepare a message for the campus community, just letting them know that our thoughts and prayers are with them. And that was kind of the emphasis. And this was at the time when we were all getting all of these messages from companies like, we care, with Black Lives Matter, we care. And it's like toilet paper companies are writing to you. And I'm like, what? And it all was words, just words on paper. And I was so frustrated. And I used that energy, that frustration, and channeled it into creating a message of action for our campus community. And the title of the email was "Words Are Not Enough." And in it, I outlined 5 strategic steps that my campus was going to take to be accountable, to minimize bias, to create a space that was inclusive, where folks had a sense of belonging and that everyone could thrive. And part of this was because I was sick and tired of folks doing the low-hanging fruit to prove that they were committed to equity and inclusion. I was done, and I say it all the time, I'm done with low-hanging fruit. I want to get to the roots of this dang tree and fix those roots so that the fruit that is born will actually be something that's meaningful to the members of our community. So Walking in Purpose meant revamping our campus orientation program to include equity, diversity, and inclusion. And this is a session that every single student at our Portland campus completes as a part of their program here. That also meant creating space for students' voices to be involved in the changes that were happening on our campus. Well, a lot of the work that we were doing was to impact the student experience, and it would be a huge oversight and not very respectful to leave them out of that process. And so found ways to further integrate their voices in the decision-making and feedback processes to help us hold us accountable for the changes that we were making. It also meant leading faculty and staff through strategic planning and education and transformation toward anti-racism. Now, has it been easy? Of course not. Are we there yet? Absolutely not. And is there still a lot of work to do? Yeah, lots of work to do. It's never ending. This is a lifelong process that all of us are engaged in. But I've used my purpose to make a difference within my institution, and it's opened many unexpected doors along the way. Which brings me to my purposeful walk in the community context. So activism can mean many, many things. Part of my walk has been defining what activism looks like for me. So particularly around George Floyd and the uptick of the Black Lives Matter movement, there were lots of marches going on. People were out protesting and demonstrating in the streets. Folks were taking to social media to advocate and share information and try to inform their friends and acquaintances. And that I realized, well, all of that is necessary. It wasn't how I wanted to go about activism from my perspective. And so walking in purpose in my community means inserting myself and my lived experiences in places that were not built for me. And it means asking tough questions about race and asking those to the folks at the highest levels of organizations and saying, okay, well, what's happening with race in this situation? How are we holding ourselves accountable? What metrics are we looking at? What is our baseline? And really pushing those questions so that change is embedded in our policies and our procedures and our processes. And so that is really important work. It also means keeping equity at the center of all that I do with these organizations. I'm not just the diversity person. I'm coming with a diverse perspective and some ideas about how to get the work done, but I'm never going to let them forget that we need to keep equity at the core of our work. Let's see. Walking in purpose also means using my research to influence change on college campuses. So as Jeanette mentioned, I'm hoping to publish this coming year some articles from my dissertation, and I'm writing a chapter right now on anti-racism and leadership education so that future leader educators are equipped with the skills and perspectives in order to be successful and accommodating and welcoming to learners that they interact with. And most recently, walking in purpose means being called upon to provide consultation to a wide variety of organizations, so nonprofits, universities, state agencies, about what it means to get to the roots of the tree and actually doing that work in an effective way. Now, I can say from the depths of my soul that walking in purpose has never, ever let me down. Now, as you engage in your own walks, I'd like to share some lessons that I've learned along the way. The first relates to this picture with my awesome kiddos on the left. This is actually from our first Christmas together, mine first as a single parent. So there was lots of emotions happening behind those smiles, but we captured it and made it a happy family moment for that time. So the lesson with that is purpose makes change work for you, right? It's hard work. Purpose work is hard work. It is heart work. It is passion work. And in every outcome, good or bad, I've never regretted walking in purpose because I know that I'm moving with intention through change in ways that work best for myself and those around me. That is critical, right? You're being an active player in what the outcome will ultimately be. My next lesson learned relates to the photo in the middle, and this is me with my very best friend, Juliet Valdez. And the lesson here is that walking in purpose is not a solo activity. Humans need each other. Now, I've always been the strong one in my group. I'm always the one who's able to hold it together, calm, cool, collected. I'm there for everyone else, and I never expected that in return from anybody. But these past few years have proven that I too need to live in my vulnerability and allow others to pour love and support into me. Juliet was my rock through some of the darkest moments of my life. She was the one who called to check on me on days when I couldn't fathom getting out of bed. She was the one who held space for me to ugly cry on her couch. She is the one who celebrates me. She's the one who gives me pep talks. She was actually the first to text me this morning to quote, "Rock your keynote, sister." So my advice to you is to find your Juliet. Find multiple Juliets. We can't do life without the support of others. Now, my last lesson learned relates to the tattoo image on the pic on the far right. This tattoo, which I got just weeks ago, is a reminder to remain open to the unknowns along the way. It's an Adinkra symbol from the Ashanti people of Ghana, my people. This is one of many symbols that are used to express proverbs and cultural wisdom among our ethnic group. This symbol is called intention and translates to twisting. The proverb says, "Obra ya ye intention," which means life is twisted. The story behind the proverb reminds individuals that change is a part of life and that we must, when faced with unexpected events, one must be versatile and dynamic to make it through. The symbol of the root of this symbol is water. So water always finds its way through the obstacles on earth. It was here before us and it will be here after us. Water moves to fit the context of its environment. Walking in purpose means being resilient and flexible in the face of change. And now it's your turn. You've already taken the first step by being here today in terms of walking in purpose. And I invite you to take advantage of the time that we have together. So you get a chance to practice walking with purpose at the conference. So here are a few insights that I have to share. First, attend sessions with purpose in mind. Is it to learn something new? Is it to become better at your work? Is it to address an area of your life that's ready for transformation? Go to these sessions with some type of goal for yourself. And I guarantee you're going to take something away from these opportunities. Also, I suggest that you try to connect with someone new. As I mentioned before, we cannot walk on our own. Everyone is here right now. Step into your vulnerability and make the most of this opportunity to get to know someone else. I encourage you to exchange contact details with each other and set up a time to connect after the conference, because who knows, they may become your very own Juliet. And lastly, take time to reflect. As I said, purpose work is heart work. And we cannot do that work without taking time to sit with our experiences and make meaning of them. And once you've done that, find ways to apply that learning in your life, be it individual, organizational, or in your community. So I spent a lot of time talking about walking with purpose and what that looks like for me. What I haven't yet addressed is the second part of that faithful quote. When you walk with purpose, you collide with destiny. So what is my destiny? Well, I haven't quite figured it all out yet, but my destiny looks like something like this. So I was browsing through TikTok, procrastinating on putting this keynote together because I do well under pressure. And so I was on TikTok, as one does, passing the time, and came across a video where a woman exclaimed, she said, "Baby, you're not trying. Get trying out of your brain. You are doing the thing." And she was so right. My destiny is now. It's what's right in front of you on the screen. If you wait to celebrate how far you've come, you'll miss opportunities to embrace the person you are today. You'll miss the opportunity to be intentional with your walks. This is me, Sarah Nana Ya Abuajoa Kutten. I'm the daughter of James and Donette Kutten. I am a survivor. I am a sister. I am an auntie. I am a mother. I am a scholar. I am an activist. I am a friend. I'm not trying to walk with purpose. I am walking with purpose, and this is my destiny. And I can't wait to see what happens next. And so that is my keynote, and I wanted to allow time at the end for folks to use the chat, ask questions, engage. But if you do have to step away, I hope that you will stay in touch. Really, really, please connect with me. That QR code is for my LinkedIn. You're welcome to email me as well. But again, community is so important, and OWHE has been such an important part of my life. And I'm excited to enter in, to gain, and continue to grow this organization into its next iteration with purpose toward our destiny. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Sarah. That was absolutely beautiful, very touching. Thank you so much for sharing your story, your journey, and your purpose and your destiny. I would, as Sarah offered, I'd like to invite you all to share messages in the chat. And if people would like to speak, please raise your hand and I will allow you all to speak.
Oh, y'all are so sweet. Thank you. If there aren't specific questions, I do have some follow-up questions for this group to reflect on, and maybe that might inspire discussion. And so I have one more slide. Ta-da, maybe. There it is. One of the questions I get is, okay, well, what's my purpose, right? And so these are some ways to help you think about your purpose, what fuels you, what inspires you. And I suggest just walking toward that, right? Finding ways to fit that into your life. So there's these questions here, but it looks like there's some questions in the chat. Jocelyn asks, I'm curious to know how some of those tough conversations you had were received. I am very, very, very diplomatic in the way that I engage in equity and inclusion work, right? So I try to make what I'm sharing palatable to people, because I know, at least for me, going in and busting the door down isn't always going to result in what I'm hoping for, right? And so, for instance, we just had our alumni board retreat for Willamette University, and the president was giving a speech about the state of the university and kind of how they're coming out of the pandemic and all the changes that they're making and all of this excitement, wanting to recruit more students and all of that. And I asked him, I said, you know, I'm really excited about all the, I couch it, right? I'm really excited about all of the changes that are happening at the university. What are you doing to center equity and inclusion in this work? And how can we, as an entity, as an alumni board, support those endeavors, right? So it's kind of building from a space of excitement or interest in the outcome, asking that hard question and offering support in order to make it there. And I know that that's not always possible, but typically that is how I will approach asking those tough questions, right? So our research, like our statistics show that 70% of our Black students are not feeling that this is a space that's welcoming to them. What can we do about that? What are you doing right now? So we're not assuming that nothing's being done, and what are some best practices that we can incorporate? And so I'm always doing it in a very constructive kind of way. So what strategies, so Shania asked a question, what strategic advice do you have for women of color pursuing leadership roles in higher education? That is a really big question. I have lots of things to say about that. First, of course, going back to walk in purpose, go toward the things that bring you joy, because there is enough happening in the politics and the world around us that wants to push us down and push us out. So walk toward the things that inspire you, that you feel empowered. Connect with the people who fuel you. Connect with mentors who can help open the doors for you on your path. I was actually chatting about this with someone yesterday. One of the things that I've always done in my career is, I go into an organization, get a lay of the land, and then identify where are some areas that there are gaps, right? That I could fill, that I could create a new process or make a new system work better, create a more inclusive environment. And often after a couple of years, that turns into basically a position description. And I will go to my supervisors and say, I'm really excited about working here, but I've also outgrown the role that I came here for. Here's what I'm proposing in order to stay. And having those conversations isn't easy, but going in with a plan in place instead of saying, oh, I hate my job, or oh, I don't want to do this anymore. It's really more of, I'm going to be in control of what happens next. I'm going to be an agent and advocate for myself. And I can share, I've done that at 3 institutions, 2 institutions. They weren't ready to make the changes necessary at the time. And so I moved on to my next step. But 3rd time's a charm, and it has worked into me creating this position at University of Oregon, where I am overseeing all of student life and equity and inclusion, and doing a lot of support for faculty and staff. And I'm so happy. I feel like I'm living my purpose, living into what I do best, and I'm fulfilled. Is it always easy? No. But when you advocate for yourself and you create opportunities to do the things that you want to do, you're going to be successful. In terms of being a woman of color, a person of color, I think having people who look like you, who are older than you and younger than you, to kind of be your cocoon, be in your cocoon with you is really important. You've got to have places where you can go and be safe and vent and talk through issues, and also have folks that are going to hold you accountable and say, I think you're kind of pushing it there. That's really important. So I have kind of a board of directors of mentors that I call upon frequently for advice, for lunches, for happy hours, things like that. But those networks are incredibly, incredibly important. Some of the advice that I received actually from some of my colleagues was to not go into chief diversity officer, to not go have my job be just a chief, to not go into a role where my singular purpose was to be a chief diversity officer. They said, you have so many gifts, and you can also make so much change within student life and infuse equity and inclusion into all that you do and all of the folks on your teams do. And so that was really where it was an aha moment for me. I know a lot of folks of color are starting to kind of look at those opportunities to get into change and equity work. And for me, it meant finding a way to build that in, to be compensated in my job for it. Awesome, Alice. Sounds like there's going to be a session on writing statements of purpose to promote yourself in the session tomorrow. So go check that out. I'm going to check that out too. Really exciting that it's kind of building with this theme. So thank you. What other questions do folks have? I can also share that it's not easy. I am proud of what I have accomplished. I'm proud of how far I have come. But that is not, it has not been an easy road. There's been ups and downs along the way, as I've shared in my presentation. But also, like, as a mother, that also really changed my identity and my sense of self and my priorities in my work, right? And so it has been this constant shuffle around making things work. I said I'm held together with this amazing group of ride or die family, friends, and colleagues. Also have an amazing therapist that I meet with every other week because it's a lot. I have help with my household because I'm privileged to be able to have someone that can come and help make sure that the cat litter gets changed. I mean, there's all of these things that have to happen as parents, as professionals, as women, and there's all of these expectations on us, and our society is not set up in a way to support that, support us doing it and being it all. And so I try to delegate as much as humanly possible. And one of my favorite books for learning how to delegate is called Drop the Ball, and it is about releasing yourself of a lot of the responsibilities that or expectations that we put on ourselves that cause more stress. And so I've really taken the works from that book to heart in my life. All right, so Rachel has a question. Can our destiny change? How do we pivot and remain walking with purpose if the future seems uncertain? Right? Go toward what makes you happy. That is my core piece of advice. The future will work itself out and you will never regret going toward what fulfills you. Because the future is always uncertain. Change is a constant. And as you walk with purpose and intention, you'll get better at it, right? The future won't seem as scary. And also your destiny, again, it's right now. So where you're at, what you're doing, who you surround yourself with, you have control of changing what that looks like for yourself. And it's sometimes taking a small step, right? Sometimes it's literally getting out of bed when you'd rather die. And that is, in my own experience, was what some of walking in purpose with purpose looked like for me. Sometimes it is, I'm going to meal prep so that I can get through this week. Sometimes it's, I'm going to sit down and make a strategic plan for the next 5 years of my life and develop a mission statement and a statement of purpose and really build out some action steps along the way. It's going to look different for each person, but at the root of all of that is go toward things that make you happy, that fill you with joy, that make you feel purposeful, and you cannot steer yourself wrong. Yeah, so we've got a question from one of our moderators. Can you share more about writing your own position descriptions, suggesting new positions, especially during tough budget times? Absolutely. And every single time I have submitted a position description, a proposal, essentially, it has been in a time of budget crisis. We are always in a budget crisis, right? And so it's about being really creative. And that's what I did this last year. It took me like 1.5 years to finally get from proposal to the change in my title. Part of it is collaborating and talking with your supervisor and saying, you know, this is where I want to go. This is how I want to continue to be challenged. These are the types of populations that I'd like to work with. These are the engagement opportunities that I'd like. This is how I would like to grow professionally. So before you even write what your next step is, you need to kind of build up your resume and your portfolio in a way that can support the direction that you want to step, right? So maybe that's being on a committee or board. Hey, OWHE or GAIN, they're always looking for board members. So this is a great opportunity to connect with them. maybe there are committees or things on your campus. Maybe there are groups in your community that you can be involved in to help kind of build up your skill set around the areas that you may want to go into. And then make sure that you're letting your boss know these are the things that I'm up to, so that they recognize that you're putting in that extra work. A lot of times it does require doing some extra work. And that's just kind of the reality of our system, is that folks, particularly folks of color, have to work extra hard and prove ourselves extra more in order to be able to move up. But essentially what I did at every institution is I identified an area that there was a gap that aligned with my interests. And I said, you know, this will be something that would be really helpful for this department or this unit or this institution. And I outlined what are the specific duties in place, what things might I keep, right? So it might be me staying in my current position with my current duties, which I have a really good handle on, and then adding a couple more things. So it might just be an elevation of title and then adding like an extra paragraph of job duties that I would be taking on. So sometimes it's not even about creating an entirely new position, it's about promoting yourself. But budgets, we're always in a budget crisis, always. So it's really about finding champions within your institution that are gonna support you and keep an eye out for you and an eye out for opportunities. There are so many positions within higher ed, even though we're not really supposed to, that are created with specific people in mind. And part of that is because they've advocated for themselves, or they've worked with somebody who really wants them on board and they create a position that really fits that need.
Sarah, there was also a question in the Q&A from Rebecca. Rebecca said, any advice for combating imposter syndrome and building self-confidence?
Yeah, I also struggle with imposter syndrome. We all do. I would say it's natural, right? I think recognition is the first part of dealing with imposter syndrome. Like, I'm letting the voices in my head, the negative voices in my head, keep me from taking this next step. And those voices are often strongest in points of change, or right before you're about to make a transition or make a leap into something else. And so in those times, I go back to my people. I go back to Juliet and say, I'm really struggling with this. And she's like, girl, you are a badass. You are a rock star. You got this. And sometimes you just need to hear it from somebody and get that boost of support. And so for me, that's where I go to fuel and push away imposter syndrome. But I'm very relational in that way. So I know that it might look different for other people, right? Maybe it's journaling, maybe it's reading inspirational quotes. I've got a whole Pinterest board of inspirational quotes that I go back to again and again whenever I'm kind of feeling down, things like that. Maybe it's a creative outlet. Maybe it's really writing down, what are the things, what am I so worried about? What am I worried about? And oftentimes those are manufactured worries, things that may happen, but in all likelihood won't. And so just go in and push yourself, recognize that you're being vulnerable, get the support that you need from the people around you or internally through journaling, things like that, and just take the step. That's the only way to combat imposter syndrome, is really to take that step forward. I hope that helps, but it is real. It is definitely real. What other questions or insights or thoughts do folks have? All right, I don't see any hands raised. I'm going to go back to my slide about staying in touch. So please connect with me on LinkedIn, send me an email. Let's meet for a Zoom conversation. I'd love to continue to build our community and support each other and learn about the amazing things that you're doing, learning about your struggles, being a support along the way. Please, please, please do not hesitate to reach out. And I truly, truly, truly mean it. So thank you. Thank you all so much. Thank you, OWHE. Thank you, Gain. Awesome.
Thank you so much, Sarah. That was wonderful. Thank you. And for everybody that's still here, I've posted the session evaluation again. Please complete that and we'll share that information and feedback with Sarah. And we still have the room here, so if you do have more questions, definitely ask. If you want to ask something verbally, we can unmute. But again, I just want to thank you on behalf of the OWHE board, GAIN board now. Thank you so much, Sarah, for sharing your time with us and for your insight and the beautiful keynote. Thank you. And yes, you can access the recording later. It's my understanding that we're going to take a couple of days, a week or so to get things edited and transcripted, and then everybody will have access to all of the recorded sessions from the OWHE conference.